The human mind is not a vault for memories. It is a weaver. It takes the raw thread of experience and spins it into narrative, softening sharp edges, mending tears with the plausible. Elara's new sight bypassed the weaver. It delivered the raw thread. And the thread was soaked in another woman's fear. The echoes ceased to be intermittent. They became a condition. Elara would look at the cobblestones of Silent Ridge's square and see them overlaid with the same stones, decades younger, thronged with people in older fashions, their faces blurred but their murmurs a phantom buzz in her ears. She would try to read a book, and the text would swim, replaced momentarily by the elegant, spidery handwriting of a diary entry she'd never written. He is digging in the wrong places. The past here is not buried. It is sleeping. She was living in a palimpsest, her present constantly being written over by Ada Thorne's past. The terror in the mirror vision haunted her. That screamed, "Silent Sea." It was not a request. It was a directive. A mission statement etched into her very perception. To quiet the ghost, she had to understand it. She began, cautiously, to ask questions. Not of Mr. Alastair, whose periodic wellness checks now felt like audits, but of the town itself. She would sit in the one sunlit cafe, her face turned to the warmth she could now see, and listen. The conversations around her were bland, concerning weather and gardens. But she learned to hear the pauses, the careful edits. The Thorne place, she mentioned casually to the elderly waitress, who was refilling her water glass. Such a beautiful old house. Is the family still? The glass clinked against the table, water sloshing. The woman's smile became a rigid fixture. Miss Thorne keeps to herself. Has for years. Since, well. She bustled away, the sentence amputated. Since her husband vanished, finished the man at the next table, a retired schoolteacher with kind, sad eyes. He lowered his voice. Robert Thorne. Historian. Good man. Said he'd found something in the old town archives. Went out to verify it one evening. Never came back. Search parties found nothing. The ridge, it has a way of swallowing things it doesn't want seen. He looked at Elara, really looked, as if seeing her for the first time. You're the artist. The one with the new eyes. Elara felt a chill. How did you know? Small town, he said, but his eyes said more. Be careful what you look for, my dear. Some locks have teeth. The visions grew more specific, more guiding. They became a breadcrumb trail of panic. She would feel a sudden, irrational urge to turn left instead of right, and her borrowed sight would flare, showing her that street not as it was, but as Ada had seen it 30 years prior, leading to the town's old stone library. One afternoon, the pull was irresistible. A headache, sharp and localized behind her eyes, Ada's eyes, drove her forward. She found herself standing before the library, a Gothic revival pile of weathered granite. The heavy oak door felt familiar under her hand. Inside, the air was thick with the smell of aging paper and beeswax. The vision overlay was intense here. She saw 2 libraries, the quiet, dusty present, and a vibrant, bustling past, with Ada Thorne, young and sharp-eyed, moving through it. Her feet, not entirely her own, carried her past the main reading room, down a narrow staircase into the basement. The archive was a cavern of metal shelves and cardboard boxes. The present was dim, forgotten. The past vision, however, was bright with a single, frantic memory. She watched, a helpless spectator in her own body, as the ghostly image of young Ada, face pale, hurried to a specific, nondescript section of shelf. She watched as Ada's hands pushed not a box, but the shelf itself. With a soft groan of protesting wood, a section of the bookcase swung inward, revealing a dark space beyond. The vision snapped. Elara was alone in the silent, dusty basement. Heart hammering, she walked to the same shelf. She pressed her hands where Ada's had been. She pushed. Nothing. Frustration rose. Then, she remembered the feeling in the vision, not just a push, but a specific pressure, up, then in. She tried again, manipulating the ornate wooden trim. A click. The shelf unit swung inward a few inches, revealing a narrow, black opening. The air that sighed out was cold and carried a scent of dry rot and something else, something faintly alkaline, chemical. Using the light from her phone, she squeezed inside. It was not a room. It was a closet. And it had not been disturbed in a very, very long time. Dust lay thick as snowfall. In the center sat a small, leather-bound journal, and beside it, a hinged box of aged wood. The journal's pages were brittle. The entries were not daily musings, but frantic, fragmented notes, the handwriting growing increasingly agitated. Robert is certain. The Covenant's records go back further than the town. The stewards are not benefactors. They are curators. He talks of the archive. Not of paper. Of flesh. Of sense. He says they don't lease. They preserve. He found the symbol. The same one on the Covenant seal, but older. Carved in stone beneath the old church. It's not a family crest. It's a recipe. Or a sigil. He's going back tonight with a camera. To get proof. I'm afraid. The quiet in this town isn't peace. It's listening. The final entry was a single line, scrawled as if in flight. If you find this, look not with their eyes, but through the cracks in what they show you. The tenant is not a donor. The tenant is a message in a bottle. I am putting my eyes in the bottle. Find the developer. Beneath it, an address. Not in Silent Ridge. In a city 200 miles away. Elara's hands were trembling. She opened the wooden box. Inside, nestled in faded velvet, was a single, unmarked canister of 35mm photographic film. At that moment, the single, bare bulb hanging from the ceiling of the secret closet flickered and died. Not a power cut. The light from her phone screen died next, plunging her into an absolute, suffocating blackness. The kind she remembered. A voice spoke from the darkness of the archive outside her hiding place. It was calm, mellifluous, and colder than the grave. Miss Vance. We did advise that the echoes were to be passive experiences. Aesthetic reminders. Like the scent of a previous owner's perfume on a borrowed coat. Mr. Alastair. Elara's blood turned to ice. She clutched the journal and film canister to her chest, as if they could shield her. Curiosity is such a fragile thing, the voice continued, closer now. He was in the archive room. It so often leads to misplaced investments. The Covenant's terms are quite clear regarding the non-interference of beneficiaries in the affairs of tenants. You were only meant to see the beauty, Miss Vance. Not the ledger. She heard the soft, sure sound of his shoes on the stone floor, approaching the hidden door. I'm afraid, he said, his voice now right outside the thin wooden partition, that your lease has a rather stringent termination clause. This concludes part 2 of the Sensory Tenants, the grain of memory. The message has been found. The bottle has been opened. And now, the keepers of the silence have come to claim what was never meant to be read.